This is Misdirection, which appeared in issue 21 of The Common. I used to tell people I'd climbed mountains as a kid, and I know they imagined snow, the yawning crevasse, avalanche danger. They imagined our departure, all red wool and axes, grinning heroes of the bristled freeze, squinting at a lens timed off the glacier. They imagined all those Everest climbers as seen on TV. They didn't come close. During that year in Miguel Vera, we took a short trip every month or so, a few days backpacking, or a mineral spring, or the pre-dawn market where the backstrap weavers sold their blankets. My father wanted us to love hiking as he did. My mother wanted us to see the world. She grumbled about research momentum. Her goal was to interview every head of household in town before her grant ran out. She needed to finish her book. But my brother and I needed to make the most of our year in the Andes, and our father, without a job, without much Spanish, needed something to do. Our first peak was more hike than climb. A warm-up, endurance practice, nothing fancy. A training run, my father said, our backyard mountain, 3,800 meters, give or take. Shaped like an iguana, my mother said, but not from any distance I could see. Further north, it might have carried year-round snow. We'll see frailejon, my mother said, a rare and famous plant that grows nowhere else in the world. Lucky us, I said, my inner botanist still dormant. We set out with our packs, feeling the wind at our backs and the smiles of our neighbors, who had never seen a whole family do any such thing. We didn't get far the first day. We found an almost level patch of ground and pitched our tent. The night began mild, soft rain at dusk and an astonishing rainbow, vertical and wide. We found a puddly lake holding just enough water that looked just about safe, then boiled it like crazy to be sure. Dehydrated chicken soup, lumpy but comforting, thickened with oatmeal to give us ballast until daybreak. A can of mackerel, a box of crackers, peanuts, hot jello. We crawled into our sleeping bags, out of the drizzle. The worst of the rain held off until after we'd eaten. Our breath, visible even inside the tent, was ripe with artificial cherries. My mother clicked off the flashlight, we said our good nights, and then we heard voices. A lantern played over the tent. My father stuck his head out, probably went out with his hands up. My mother went after. My brother and I sat rigid, listening hard. Bobbing lights, grumbled voices, nothing quite rising to a shout. Words I almost understood, the tone demanding. On our side, my mother did most of the talking. Finally, footsteps moving away. My parents crawled back inside, never a graceful maneuver, but worse with two tightly wound children, ready to pounce with our questions. There were two of them, my mother said shortly. Her tone suggested she didn't intend to say much beyond that. My father was more expansive. They thought we were stealing their cattle, he said. The men had relented, said we could stay the night. They expected us out in the morning. I almost offered them a drink, my father said, unscrewing the lid to his flask, but it never seems wise to offer a drink to a man with a gun. They had a gun? I heard myself squeak. I imagined an old-fashioned shotgun closer to a musket, something out of a movie. I had never seen a firearm up close. Did they point it at you? Hush, my mother said. Smart people, cautious people, might have turned back come morning. Not us. Granted, we were all rattled. We ate our oatmeal and drank our cocoa, and in their distraction, each of our parents handed out hard candy and caramels for the hike. My brother and I stuffed our pockets and kept our mouths shut. We broke camp. We started walking. We were into the Paramo for real. Paramo was the upland, the highland. It was also the name of the typical highland drizzle, heavier than mist, but lighter than rain. The air was heavy, filming our cheeks, fogging my father's glasses. I kept looking over my shoulder. My mother did too. The trip got longer and longer. There was always a higher point beyond the ridge. This was when we learned the term false summit, yet more proof the earth is round, or maybe it's just perspective. You can't see what's right up close because it's up too close. Then there's the question of hope, the desperate hope you'll get to stop walking before you drop on the trail, a hope that makes every bend in the trail look like a destination. Maybe the mountain was an actual iguana. We trundled over enough odd and unexpected ridges, false summiting again and again, that we might have traversed a stegosaurus, blade by blade, spiky plate by spiky plate. Up, down, back again, lava and grass, not bone. Try the rest step, my father said, demonstrating a rhythm he claimed could sustain us for days. Step, pause, step, pause. But tired kids hurry, then drag, then gallop. Steady as she goes is not their rhythm. The candy in our pockets was gone. Then we came to the Frailejon. Pale green, furred leaves, dark trunks towering like woolly mammoths out of the fog. Those trees felt like company, ghostly, dim, exciting. We stroked the velvety ears, dazzle-diamonded with tiny drops. Espeletia, my father said, a genus of the sunflower family, also known as rosette or compound trees. He pulled a pocket guide out of his pack. I overlaid sunflowers along that ridge as far as the eye could see, ripe and drooping, the way sunflowers in some essential way seem sleepy, unable to hold up their heads. We were walking in a mist not quite burnt off by sun we couldn't see, the Frailejon hand in hand with the imaginary sunflowers I was sowing as we walked. I don't even remember the summit. I suppose there was one, perhaps with a pile of rocks and a half-buried notebook for our names and the date. But it seems to me now that after all that false summiting, we simply walked up and over. Summit Cairn or no Summit Cairn, at some point we declared victory and started to hike back down into the fog. We were supposed to retrace our steps, explore the ridgetop, appreciate the flora, and then go back the way we came. But maybe we were still a little rattled because we took a wrong turn and walked down the wrong side of the ridge. Easy to do. It all looked the same. It was staggeringly beautiful. I could see this. Wrinkled land in green and gold, grass clumped and sloping, those dark trunks looming out of the mist. But the mist was part of the problem, and the rubbed ridges of lava that clambered and accumulated but didn't trouble themselves much to look different one from another. We walked down the mountain and into the most absolute white, cottony fog I have ever seen, fog you could sculpt in your hands, and we lost our way.